Welcome back to the news today. This is the Daily Debate. The fear from the Islamic State seems to be bringing together two arch rivals, Saudi Arabia and Iran. Under the umbrella of the leadership of the United States, many conflicted countries are finding a common interest to become a part of the force that will push back the militants. But as we know, in diplomacy, you give something in order to gain another. So tonight we will try to understand what is going on behind the scenes and who is friends with whom and what is happening. With me right now on set is Iranian politics expert Meir Javedanfar. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy.
Thank you very much for coming. And also Hamad Awidat, the correspondent for the Iranian Press TV. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. So, explain to me, just a few months ago, we were sitting here talking about Saudi Arabia being against Iran, not liking what is happening. Saudi Arabia wants to be an ally of Israel to create some kind of a bloc against Iran. What is happening here? I may not be a very good diplomat in the future.
No, you asked a great question. When it comes to Iran, remember, all politics starts at the local level. And in Iran, it starts locally. The Iranian looked at what happened in Iraq with Daesh, with ISIS. There was a discussion in Iran. There were two fronts. One said, we got to get rid of Nouri al-Maliki. This was the moderate / the Supreme National Security Council. The other said, no, we got to keep Nouri al-Maliki. We can't be flexible to the Saudis. That was the Revolutionary Guard, who I always said they have the file for Iraq. Well, guess who won that argument? It was the people who said that we got to replace Nouri al-Maliki. And it's very important. The IRGC Revolutionary Guard lost that file to the Supreme National Security Council. Now we have the head of the Supreme National Security Council, General Shamkhani, who is an Iranian Arab himself. He speaks fluent Arabic from Iran South. He's the one who's been wheeling and dealing, and they chose the new, Iran agreed with the new Iraqi Prime Minister, al-Abadi. And now we see that they are actually now talking to the Saudis, and they are saying, okay, we got to have a candidate in Iraq that's also good to the Saudis. It can't be mutually exclusive anymore. It can't be just what's good for Iran. It's got to be that way. We got to, as you said, give a little to the Saudis to get a little, which basically means stability in Iraq and not Kurdistan tearing away and forming its own state.
So let's see what our viewers, before I'm passing to you, Hamad, to understand if it's giving a little or giving a lot to the Saudis. I want to see what our viewers had to say about, around the world had to say about that. Good evening, Nurit. Explain to us a little bit how our viewers side.
Good evening, Lucy. So as you've been discussing a lot on the news today throughout, the Islamic State seems to be making good friends, or at least allies, out of big enemies. And Iran and Saudi Arabia are perhaps two of the biggest ones in the Middle East. So we asked our viewers today this question: will the common enemy of the Islamic State warm Iran-Saudi relations? Let's take a look first at what our viewers had to say globally on i24news.tv. 65% said no, it's not making the making for a real friendship. Only 23% said yes. So let's take a look first of all at the people who had sort of mitigated responses. Pierre, David, and Claude all said sort of similar ideas. Pierre says both countries have strategic reasons to get closer. They want to keep their influence over the region and not see it destabilize. So there's the kind of argument why they should become closer allies. David says it will warm it, but it won't be long-lasting. The enemy of my enemy is my friend is not really the makings of a good long relationship. Claude sort of echoes the same thing, saying it's just an alliance of convenience. Let's take a look at some of the other arguments we had that were quite interesting. Zainab said nothing in this region, in the Middle East, should be taken at face value, especially not within the chaos that ISIL is causing. She asks, do we really know exactly who's with them and who's against them? Some analysts have suggested there are elements in Saudi Arabia that could actually be funding IS, Saudi Arabia, of course, also being Sunni-based. So an interesting question to put out there. Vivian said Saudi backs terror groups as much as Iran does. Iran has missiles targeted at Saudi Arabia and vice versa. So, of course, we have a bigger picture here, and these countries are still not friends by any means. Let's just end with Morgan, who said this horrific group is just a bump in the way of a much greater, never-ending battle between Iran and Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. He says, the West would do good not to forget that. So another important point that as the West is building its strategy, it should remember that the kind of alliances that are built now are probably not long-lasting. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, kind of alliances, like you're saying. Thank you, Nurit. Who is losing, who is winning from this deal?
I think it's not a surprise, Mr. President Rouhani, since he was elected to be a president for the Iranian people, he say that he will put in his priorities to make a good relationships with the Saudi Arabic. And now there's a new cancer in the Middle East. Now everyone have to talk about this ISIS or this militias that they are and they are supporting. They are getting their support now from Saudi Arabic and the weapons that they have. I think now the war is going to be more than what we think or what we can imagine. It's a kind of war that will transfer to be a war between Sunni and Shia. The Iranians have a problem to make the Shia in the world as a terrorists or as a bad people. The Sunni, also the Saudi, they did this mistake. I think this kind of partnership now between Saudi Arabia and the Iranians can be a master key for the Middle East. I mean a master key because, excuse me, I mean it will be a master key because the Iranians, they have the keys of the Syrians and they have the keys of Hezbollah and they have the keys of a lot of organizations that they are against Israel, okay? And the Saudi Arabia, not Qatar, they have the keys of the Sunnah, that they are supporting the Daesh, the ISIS in this area, and they are making this fire here. I think they are the master key, the Saudi Arabia and the Iranian.
Are they the master key, or the diplomacy of today is not actually the diplomacy of tomorrow? And what will happen today is not probably what will happen tomorrow.
I agree with Hamad that if you want peace in this region, there are many different things that are going to happen. One of them being the conflict between the extremist Sunni who believe that Shia are heretic. And of course, some of the Shia-backed governments who have been oppressing the Sunni minority. Yeah. But this is a great idea, and we should follow it. But unfortunately, the Saudi government still is funding some of the most Sheikh Qardawi in Qatar, which is actually been supported by the Qataris.
Yeah,
or oh my God! If he said the things he said about the Shiites, he said about the Jews, he would be one of the world's biggest anti-Semites. And I don't see the Saudis stopping that. And this is just real politics. This is just short-term interests. The Iranian regime, since the beginning, even though it tried to stay away from the Shia-Sunni thing, it's taken some actions which basically has presented itself as a danger to the Sunni world, which is one like Ayatollah Khomeini won the revolution. He called for overthrow of Saddam Hussein. The Sunni world didn't take too kindly for that. And of course, the Saudis, they till today, if you go to Mecca, they humiliate the Shiite, the visitors, the Hajis who come there. So yes, there is a lot of differences. There may be some small rapprochement, but Hamid, I'm sorry to say, but I don't see either government really budging in its position to end the conflict.
Do you want to answer?
Just my answer is like this, that the solution for the Middle East is the people who live here in the Middle East, which mean the Israelis and the Syrians and the Iraqis and the Saudis, not the United States. The Iranians, they are the people they are the regime that they are supporting half of the Middle East. We are talking about half of this area, half of this region, that there is a big fire there. Now, if you are going to talk about a fire, it's not the 50 days of war of Tzokitan in Gaza. It's the war in Syria and the smell of war that we start to smell now in Lebanon. In Lebanon, we are not talking about ISIS now. It's just a tool that have been supported by the Saudi Arabia, that they have been supported by weapons. Just I was watching today videos of which kind of weapons they have. I'm sorry to tell you that they have weapons that they have been they are coming from United States. You can be there. Someone who is professional with weapons, he can know this, like M16s and all of these pumps and that they have and rockets that they have there. And some of it, it's Israelis. The Iranians now and the world now have a big chance to open this door with the Iranians and to bring peace to the Middle East. Else we have a bad situation.
He mentioned Hamid here mentioned. He mentioned Israel and the United States and the concern of weapons, but where does it put Israel and the United States? Two key states in one way or another, two key players in this so-called game. Where does it, because Israel in one way or another, or according to rumors, counted on Saudi Arabia. The United States maybe slammed Saudi Arabia's face when it dealt with Qatar. Of course, now it's in one way or another it's getting into a diplomacy with Iran against IS. Where does it put the United States and Israel?
I think we've got to treat the two differently in this case, because you know, for America it's different. Daesh is different than the state of Israel. I think for the Americans, I think they're a little bit confused by this, because you know, Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons, they did nothing, and now the people who are fighting Bashar al-Assad, they may bomb them. What's that going to send a message to the Sunnis? That's not going to send a good message to the Sunni world. So now they are, I think, waiting to form a coalition to attack. For us in Israel, to be honest with you, Lucy, you know, it's good that if Iran wants to fight Daesh for us, ahlan wa sahlan. You know, they are fighting an enemy which is today their enemy and tomorrow will be our enemy. But we're not changing in this country. We have to be nimble in this part of the world. And I'm at the expense of repeating myself again. We have to take the peace process with the Palestinians seriously. We have to stop, you know, we saw the 2 recent settlement buildings. Not that because I think it's just suddenly we're going to be, you know, in peace and singing Kumbaya with people in Ramallah. But diplomatically, we need to become stronger. Why? Because sooner or later, we may have to start attacking Syrian territory. And to do that, to attack the territory of yet another Arab country, we'll need to have a lot of diplomatic points on our diplomatic credit card. And right now, we're losing points, and that's something very interesting. I'm just not sure. I agree with Hamad's point that Saudi Arabia is financing Daesh. I understand that some families in Saudi Arabia and in Kuwait especially were giving them money, but I'm not sure that the Saudi government is giving them money, as far as I know.
You are helping me to describe my idea. I will tell you that Saudi Arabia is a country that have been built just because of some camps and some families. They are not a community. That's first. That's it. So they are the same families that they are supporting these militias that they are there. They have a lot of organizations under the name of Jabhat al-Nusra that they have been supported just a few days ago with a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm inviting you to watch some YouTube video that I will send for you, some research, okay, that he prepared just a few days ago. Also, I will not talk about the Palestinians because a little bit it's not my issue now, okay? I will not go to there. Sisi will take care for this. There's a deal that they have that happened there. You know, I will talk about the ISIS and Syria and Iranians and Israel and United States. Just excuse me, Mr. Meir, I'm coming from the border between Syria and Lebanon and Israel, from a region called Golan Heights. Just before a few hours, I was watching a camp for ISIS with their black flags far away from Israeli camp for the Israeli soldiers. So I'm talking about 50 meters, 60 meters, not more. And when someone injured, they are helping them and they are bringing them there. Just if they want to solve this solution, they can bomb them, and they have the leaders there. I have this video. We film it. We are talking about it a lot of time, since 2 years. But now I will tell you what is the secret and the master key of the United States and the Israelis. Just before a few months or few weeks, I can tell you, when ISIS, Daesh, went inside Erbil in Iraq, there is a red light start to be there. Why? Erbil is one of the best or one of the most important locations for the United States in the Middle East, where is the communication of their security and their army and all that. So they start to feel that these dangers or these snakes start to be very close to their home. So they have to defeat to themselves and to their partner in this area, which means the state of Israel. And you are welcome, and everyone is welcome to go to the Golan Heights and to see the American soldiers with their uniform, with their flags there on the border.
Well, what I find amazing is that if there's already Daesh on our border, then, you know, we got to be ready. And I think, you know, if the coalition involving Iran is going to start weakening them in Iraq, then that's important for us. But what I find also interesting is that the shifting alliances, according to an article I read in Ma'ariv, there's the Druze on our side of the border are asking the state of Israel to annex a Druze village on the Syrian side because they're worried about...
No, excuse me. No, I'm coming from a Druze minority. I'm one of these, with these people. I am Druze. I'm coming from there. At the end of the day, you know, I am an Arab Syrian. That's right that I am Druze, as you Jewish, as the others, they are Christians. It's not our issue. Here, we can't talk about minorities. That's the way that some politics here and everywhere everywhere. They want us to start to talk about, they want us to talk about minorities, just to part us and to divide us, to be as Druze country and Jewish country and Christian country and Alawi country and Shia country and Kurdi country and all. Then they can't control this area. Our problem is not the Druze and not the Sunni and not the Shia. Our problem is this kind of militias, this kind of terrorists that they are moving there.
If I'm not mistaken, what you wanted to say is that they're asking to annex the villages to save them from
they're worried because Daesh
from what is happening
going against
with Daesh
exactly.
and IS. This is what I understand, not to separate them, but to annex
we
them.
just had Walid Jumblat also in Lebanon, who's also another famous Druze leader, who was asked for Iran and Turkey to be included in the Arab League. Now you got to think about why is he doing it? Again, the word Daesh comes to mind because the way he sees it, the more these countries are involved in the Middle East, the more Daesh is changing the geostrategic map of this region.
And we didn't even start talking about Syria and Bashar al-Assad. Thank you very much for coming to the studio. We're going out for a small break, 2 minutes break, and then we will have our one-on-one, which we filmed just yesterday. Very interesting one. Don't go anywhere.